There's one thing we all remember about the year 2020. It was the big news event that shook the world. No matter who you were or where you were, this event touched us all, and its repercussions continue to affect us even today. I am of course talking about the launch of the short-form content app, Quibi.
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 Quibi, or Quick Bites.
Quibi was a new media venture that burned through almost $2 billion in cash and closed down a mere 6 months after it launched. And it was really fun to make fun of it. We all did it. I did it. You probably did it. But I'm standing here in front of you today to ask an important question. What if we were all wrong? What if Quibi was actually, secretly, kind of a genius idea, and it was the victim of bad luck, bad timing, and being just a few years ahead of its time? What if we all owe Quibi a massive apology? You might have noticed a new trend that's been quietly sweeping through Hollywood right now. What is this exciting new trend that's poised to revolutionize Hollywood? Serialized drama. And if you're asking, wait, how is that new? Well, it's not just any old serialized drama, but short-form vertical serialized drama designed specifically to watch on your phone. The trend has already been popular in China for a few years, and now American studios are finally playing catch-up. And they're dumping loads of resources into developing their own short-form serialized shows. So what is the difference between a short or microdrama, as they're regularly called, and a regular TV show? Microdramas are obviously shot for vertical video. They're also, well, micro. Most episodes are very short, usually around 90 seconds long. The shows themselves share a lot more in common with daytime soap operas than with primetime dramas. The scenarios are usually sexual in nature and they're very melodramatic. Though unlike most soaps, they often veer into territory more familiar to fans of the Omegaverse, Wattpad, fanfic, featuring sexy vampires, werewolves, alpha males, and submissive women.
Me, the Alpha's brother. The beta of the Crescent Pack with you.
I'm ready to submit. What? Didn't you leave for medical assistance?
The shows mainly attract young and middle-aged female audiences, and they lean into that fact by producing content that feels like it's a knockoff of Twilight, It Ends With Us, or 50 Shades of Grey. And like I said, money is pouring into this kind of content right now. Studios, investors, and startups are furiously producing more and more shows every week. Some are relying on the lowest common denominator, pushing out AI slop that's barely comprehensible. But there are others that are putting a surprising amount of time and effort into these shows. Recently, SAG-AFTRA and the WGA have both updated their contracts to allow their members to work on these productions. So what is the business model of these shows? How are they actually making money? Well, first of all, these are extremely low-budget productions. The inclusion of unions will drive that cost up a little bit, but these are still shows that shoot as quickly and efficiently as possible.
These productions can be shot in less than a week. A highly lucrative format, and there is no doubt it is landing.
Okay, so they're cheap, but are they really making money by just dumping these shows on TikTok or Instagram? No, they're not. There might be some ad revenue there, but most of their money does not come from publishing the shows on social media. The real money comes from app subscriptions. In general, the production companies will release a few episodes for free on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. Then they lock up the rest of the show behind a paywall on their own proprietary app.
She's my mate.
If you want to know if the girl gets with the sexy werewolf at the end, you're gonna have to subscribe. Sometimes you can just do a one-time subscription to an app and get the rest of the show. But it's becoming more common to have to pay either per series or even per episode. Essentially, they've created microtransactions for TV. But wait, I thought this video was about Quibi. That's you. That's what you sound like. Basically, from its announcement, Quibi became a punchline. And it is easy to see why. It was the brainchild of former Disney exec and DreamWorks co-founder Jeffrey Katzenberg and former HP and eBay CEO Meg Whitman. Quibi was pitched as a mashup of YouTube, Netflix, and Instagram. It would have the high-quality production value of Netflix, but importantly, each episode would be short, a quick bite, if you will, usually between 1 and 10 minutes long. Users would pay either $5 a month for the ad-supported version or $8 a month for an ad-free version. The content was a mix of narrative dramas, comedies, game shows, and reality shows. Really not different from what you'd find on any given cable channel or streaming service. Just shorter. And Quibi had another ace up its sleeve. All of its shows could be viewed in either vertical or horizontal aspect ratios, which theoretically solved the big awkward problem facing every other video platform in the mobile phone era. Do you engage in a chaotic campaign to get viewers to turn their screens 90 degrees, or do you accept that everyone will watch your videos vertically, even if that kills your soul a little bit? Quibi was the first to say,
"Can it be both?"
And I'd argue that was a pretty good idea. Unfortunately, from the beginning, Quibi just felt off. The shows themselves felt cheap, even the ones with A-list stars. More importantly, for a competitor of Instagram and YouTube, the shows didn't feel native to the platform. They felt like they could exist anywhere, and often the short episodes felt choppy and incongruous, like they'd taken an existing show or movie and recut it to fit Quibi's mandate. And that's exactly what had happened. Particularly in the beginning, very few of Quibi's shows were developed and produced for Quibi specifically. That means that most of them weren't shot in a way that naturally allowed viewers to choose vertical or horizontal, which, despite Quibi's sales pitch, meant that it ultimately didn't feel much different than all the other video platforms already struggling with the horizontal-vertical problem. Quibi didn't have the luxury of letting the content evolve over time like YouTube and Netflix had, but in loudly announcing that this was an entirely new kind of TV. They were taking on the biggest, most established players in basically every part of the industry. So any missteps were bound to be studied and mocked intensely, not just by casual users, but by established industry players looking to protect their market share. But some mockery from competitors was the least of Quibi's problems, and it was nothing Jeffrey Katzenberg, a messy bitch who lives for drama, couldn't handle. Quibi launched in April 2020 at the height of COVID-19, and it was, unsurprisingly, a disaster. What's interesting is that this, in my opinion, could have actually been a boon for them. After all, Netflix famously did gangbusters during the pandemic. The big issue is that Quibi started strictly as a phone app. You couldn't watch any of the content on your TV. I think even in normal times, this decision probably would have at least hurt Quibi, if not killed it outright. But the fact that it launched when the vast majority of Americans were sitting at home was devastating. What Quibi seems to have failed to realize is that much of Netflix and YouTube's success is in their ubiquity. Both apps are available just about anywhere. I'm pretty sure you can watch Netflix on your smart fridge these days. Even without the pandemic, I don't think you'll be able to get people to pay for a video app that they can't play on their TV. Quibi's whole pitch is that it would offer high-quality, short-form content for people waiting in line at the coffee shop or the bank. Quibi also had the misfortune of launching right in the midst of the streaming gold rush, just a few months after the launch of Disney Plus and about a month before the launch of HBO Max. Both of those platforms were available on your phone, laptop, tablet, and TV. And then there's the elephant in the room. After Chinese-owned ByteDance purchased Musical.ly and merged it with TikTok, the app started growing in popularity in America very quickly. At first blush, TikTok doesn't really feel like a natural Quibi competitor. It's much more focused on UGC, or user-generated content. It feels much more like a competitor to Instagram, YouTube, and Snapchat. And it is. But it's worth remembering that the vast majority of TikTok users don't generate any content, they only consume it. Which means that for most users, TikTok filled the exact niche Quibi was targeting. People looking for quick bites of content while waiting in line, commuting, or, let's be honest, on the toilet. I think what really cemented TikTok's success was that it relied heavily on an algorithm that not only learned what users wanted, but kept the user interface, or UI, remarkably simple. A TikTok power user can manually train the algorithm, but a casual user who just wants to swipe away will still have a pretty good experience. Quibi acted much more like a traditional streamer. Once you were watching a show, you couldn't just swipe it away and see what was next. You'd have to take a few clicks to try something new. That doesn't sound like much, but you do have to remember how lazy people are on their phones. Unless you're seeking out something specific, it's basically a passive experience. You're just swiping and swiping. As far as content, most people aren't expecting anything special from TikTok, which means the barrier to be a content creator on the platform is about as low as it can possibly get. Thus, Quibi found itself in an awkward position. It had marketed itself as a destination for Hollywood-quality content, competing with Netflix, HBO Max, and Disney+, but that content was only available on a device that would have to compete directly with platforms that could produce virtually endless amounts of content every single day. And of course, there's the other huge issue. YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are free. There was no free version of Quibi, and Quibi's content simply wasn't as good as Netflix's or Disney's. Quibi did offer a 90-day free trial of the app. The problem was, when it was time to pay up, very, very few people actually decided to pay for it. So why do we owe Quibi an apology? It seems like they didn't do a particularly good job. And, yeah, we don't really owe them an apology. We never owe any corporation an apology for anything. But how I've come to think about Quibi is simple. It was a good idea, poorly executed. As we're seeing now with this rise in vertical short-form narrative dramas and entire apps being built around their success, I think Quibi could have worked incredibly well with just a few tweaks to their strategy. What this rise in short-form dramas tells me is that there is very much a market for visual storytelling on mobile devices, and that people don't necessarily just want TikTok-style UGC videos. It could have carved out a unique niche in a burgeoning market and secured itself as a leader in a new type of content production. If Quibi had committed to producing and distributing low-cost content that was truly native to mobile devices, and if they'd had more time to let that content grow and adapt organically based on user feedback and data, I think they could have succeeded. So in essence, this is a story about the value of patience. We're in an era where basically every company needs to see double-digit growth every quarter rather than steady, consistent growth over years. Quibi needed to be a monster success immediately, and because it wasn't, it was gone in just 6 months. If Quibi had started with a free ad-supported app that showed compelling, unique content that couldn't be found anywhere else, there is a world where they could have grown slowly and been a leader in the current wave of short-form dramas we're seeing now. I do think they were onto something, even if they themselves didn't necessarily know they were onto it. At the risk of being naively optimistic, this kind of production could fill a gap for upcoming writers, directors, and producers, particularly as big-budget productions continue to become more top-heavy and reliant on existing talent rather than giving chances to newcomers. With this kind of show, creatives could get to learn how to tell stories, they'd be able to build their reels, make connections, maybe even make a little bit of money as well. Is it perfect? No, of course not. A lot of vertical shows that are coming out right now are dog just garbage.
Why the hell are you wearing my brother's jacket? I'm your mate.
But they don't have to be. Look, I went to film school. I'm no fan of vertical video production, but it is an evil I can live with if it means making a living creating shows. And I think even within those limitations, there is a lot of room for creative choices, freedom, and experimentation. Like I said before, a lot of these shows aren't too dissimilar from soap operas, which at the time were considered lowbrow, cheap, and unserious. But those shows got exceptionally good at what they did, and some of them ended up revolutionizing serialized storytelling in ways that bled into more traditional film and TV over time. Vertical shows have a long way to go before they reach that point.
Then I'll beat it out of you.
You know what? You lost the right to tell me what to do a long time ago.
But I think they actually have a lot more potential than most people think. And while Quibi is long dead and gone, in some ways it paved the way for the apps we're seeing today. So RIP to Quibi. You taught us that it's okay to watch quick bites on our phones while taking a shit. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. Let me know if you actually liked Quibi, if you subscribed, if there were shows you watched that you actually really liked. Also, if you're currently watching any of these vertical shows, let me know what the experience is like. I played around with some of the apps, and you know, it's not for me, but obviously it is for a lot of people. So, you know, give me a shout if there's shows on there you think I should check out. Okay, see you next time. Bye.